Hello, welcome to the show. It is Money&Markets and I'm Charles Ward, your host. For starters, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the economy in general, but specifically the real estate sector. A lot has been discussed about issues arising here, especially the tenant-landlord question. But not so much has been given in terms of solutions to this arising problem. Today, we try to go into that space and find out what experts are saying should be the best way forward.
The major effect has been on foreign indirect investments. Right now, we do not have a lot of investors coming in because, as you know, the airports are not working. However, the real effect of this disease will be seen later because the cycle for the real estate sector is always a little bit behind to that of the entire economy. For example, people will first suffer, their incomes will first close, some people are losing jobs, some people's businesses are closing. We have people who have been surviving on NGOs to earn a living. Some of the investors have died, they will not come. And once these people are not spending, then the effect in the real estate sector will be felt a little bit later, in the later stages. We have a crooked kind of real estate regime, especially in terms of the rental-landlord relationship or the tenant-landlord relationship. We have a little bit of hiding. Our relationship is not clear. But even in such a circumstance, I want to believe that he actually needed to mediate the relationship. First of all, anyone who is a tenant, especially like our colleagues in arcades, who are arguing that they will not pay rent because they have not been working, my first question would be, before you make that argument, do you have a valid contract with the landlord? Two, in that contract, do you have what we call a force majeure clause that talks about eventualities that are not planned, which we can say they are acts of God? For example, like Corona, we can say it is an act of God. It was not intended. Assuming the contract is there, then to me the first option would be to negotiate with the landlords. If the contracts are not there generically, what the traders ought to do is to appeal to government, especially the Minister of Trade and the Minister of Finance, to arbitrate on their behalf with the landlords. One, we must all understand that in truth, everybody, whether you're a landlord, you're a tenant, you are affected by this COVID. Some of these landlords, by the way, have development projects they are undertaking, and they were inclined on the estimates of income from rent. Secondly, we are likely to affect our reputation globally. Because once people riot, once people try to evade paying rent, our colleagues abroad, other people who are intending to come and do real estate here, especially investors, they will fear. Of course, the most obvious, there are no flights. And that is the most obvious movement which has been bringing them here. If there are no flights, there is no way they can come. In terms of what percentage, you really need to look at most of the skyscrapers in the areas of Nigeria. You're going to find out the background of those investors. Some of them, they might have a Ugandan passport because some of them were born here, but actually majority of them, they have a base in India. Majority of them have a base in Pakistan. They have a base in Saudi Arabia. So if you go to Naria area, Nigeria, Chambogo, all those developing areas, they are actually, most of those buildings are owned by, let me say, foreign direct investors. we need to be ethical in the way we run our real estate relationships. Then secondly, we don't need to look at tenants as destitutes. They are partners in business. When a partner is challenged, we listen to their point of view. We need to take that relationship to be mutual, to be symbiotic rather than parasitic. But also landlords must know, especially traders, if you strike, be aware you might strike in the city center, but you have a mzigo you rent out somewhere in a village somewhere. It could be in a slum somewhere. That tenant will also strike. Whatever we do now, we must know that it is going to build a long-term impression on our character and the behavior for which we do. What government needs to know, if you see, real estate is an enabler. Everybody needs shelter. It is a basic human need. Now, you cannot tax food so much. You cannot tax air. You cannot tax, even we are crying tax on water. Then you cannot ignore real estate because, first of all, by the way, we eat from a building under normal circumstances. Most of the things are done in a building. It is the building that gives us security. We are not going to sleep healthy if housing conditions are improved. Little is spent on health. So really, government needs to reduce as much as possible taxes on housing and real estate sector in general, including commercial.
Everyone is talking about agriculture as an area, a silver bullet to turn around this economy's fortunes after the COVID-19 pandemic. However, there are a couple of issues that needs to be dealt with. Like, for instance, we've done a lot on the production side in certain sectors like dairy, but the markets are proven to be a challenge. So, experts are saying we need to look at the issue 360 degrees. Let's try to find out what needs to be done, taking the dairy subsector as a case study. In his budget speech for the coming financial year, Kenya's Finance Minister, Ukur Yatan, proudly announced, "I have proposed at the regional level measures aimed at promoting local manufacturing and also measures to ensure that locally manufactured products are competitive." By local, the minister was referring to products manufactured or originating within the East African region. This pronouncement was in line with the region's finance minister's position on measures to protect the region's manufacturers ahead of the conclusion of a comprehensive review of East Africa's common external tariff. However, steam is sucked out of this stance when one looks at the milk trade war between Kenya and Uganda, which peaked this financial year and directly challenges the common market spirit. On the 16th of January this year, frustrated Ugandan officials issued what the East African newspaper termed as a rare diplomatic rebuke to Kenya over the continued blockage of milk exports by Ugandan-based Pearl Dairies to Kenya. The obstruction in Kenya of delivery trucks carrying Pearl Dairies products had by then cost the company over $500,000 according to the firm. Another 32 trucks laden with milk were by then stranded at different points between the Pearl Dairies processing plant in Barara and the common border at Busia. In Uganda, milk prices took a hit as a result of these realities.
Of recent, we have been hit by the price. It is as bad as 300 per litre. As I talk now, falling from 1,200 to now 300.
This was in the third week of January this year. To sector players, Uganda's ability to produce milk at relatively cheaper rates is partly to blame.
Right now, even with our inefficiency, you're hearing stories that our brothers, for example, in Kenya, are feeling us. As we send milk to Kenya, they think Ugandan milk is much cheaper than theirs. But that is natural because Uganda has comparative and competitive advantage. Our maize is cheaper, we have more food, so our milk is bound to be cheaper.
Because of favorable policies and support from partners like ABA, Uganda's milk production has over the past 20 years expanded by over 70%, and today the country produces 2.5 billion litres of milk per year, which experts say can be doubled easily with better agribusiness practices. It, however, needs the export market to consume this milk, and Kenya offers the biggest in the region.
Our per capita consumption is really very, very low. It's really disappointingly low. The FAO recommends at least 200 liters per person per year. And in Uganda, the per capita consumption is 62 liters, which is really still low, and they really need to do a lot to have it increased.
Uganda's diary story brings to the fore two important aspects. One is the fact that away from traditional agricultural products like coffee and cotton, the country has a competitive advantage and potential in many other agricultural products. This is giving the executive optimism that agriculture is the sector to look at. But secondly, and most importantly, is the fact that being good at production is one thing, and access to the market is another. So much so that even market partnerships like one Uganda made with its peers, the East African Common Market, may offer no guarantees. We'll now take a very short commercial break. Don't go away. Man and Markets continues.